meetings tend to be the bane of people's existence and can cause a lot of problems. What are some tips that you have for conducting really productive meetings?
Yeah, I was lucky at Carnegie. I worked with some amazing people who I think had spent much of their career sitting in bad meetings and wanted to make Carnegie different. So I feel very lucky. I learned a ton from them. And I mean, we could probably talk for like a day about this, but just three big things that I think are the most high leverage relating to, having positive and productive meetings. One is, I would say, have norms in advance for how you operate in the meeting. Like, do I interrupt you if I have something to say? Do I wait till the end? Or do I maybe ask clarifying questions and then save the more serious substantive questions till you're finished? Or am I allowed to ask those along the way? Do we raise our hands or just shout out? And I think those things seem really obvious because usually people have pretty distinctive preferences there, but that doesn't mean that everyone in the group does. So it's worth just kind of laying them out in advance and sharing them with people at the beginning of a meeting. So when I'm in a new organization, I do that. I go over the norms in the beginning. If there's any pre-work or expectations there, I send out the norms in advance. But then I go over them in the meeting, and then here's the important part. So many people do this, and it doesn't work right away. Like, no one listens to the norms. It's just kind of chaos. You have to actually hold people accountable to them. You have to have the courage in that meeting to be like, hey, you know what? We actually said we're going to hold questions till the end of, so-and-so's speech. So let's just wait till that's finished, and then we'll get to your question, or I'll make a note of your question. And then I re-bring them up at subsequent meetings. I keep bringing them until I feel like we're actually doing them. And sometimes I'll post them on the wall if we have like a particular meeting room or meeting rooms, just to remind people. And what I found is that, like I said in the beginning, it never works. No one listens or follows them.
So just expect that.
Yeah. I think people like lose heart then, right? And they just think, okay, well, this isn't working. I'm just not going to do it. But you have to just keep trying and holding people accountable. And eventually you'll usually get like a second person. It might not happen in the first meeting, but over time, someone else will jump in and say, hey, I think we have a norm that we're going to raise hands. And then you don't have to do it. And they start holding one another accountable. So having norms, I think, is critical. I think it can even be norms about, do we stay on time or do we go off on tangents? And you can adjust them slightly as you learn more about how your group works, but I think that's critical. Number two, I would say, is have an agenda in advance and have time slots for each agenda item. Like, really be judicious about, okay, how many things are we going to cover and how much time do we have? And be realistic. If you have 10 big things to cover, and they're significant, you only have an hour, you're probably not going to get through all of those. So you need to think about, okay, do we need to have a longer meeting, or what can I cut from this that maybe can be covered at a different time? So I think that there's a lot that you as a facilitator or a meeting organizer benefit from or gain from thinking that stuff through in advance. And then you have to keep people on track and on time. And I think if I had to say a third big idea for meetings is I would collect data. I collect data at the end of meetings as to how did this meeting go on a scale of 1 to 5, and you can just have people hold their hands up. And at first I had the senior management team at Carnegie do this, and at first I think they were like, you are crazy. These are very senior professionals who are very established in their career, and we're going to rank this meeting with our hands. And I was like, yes, you are. And it was one of those sort of fake it till you make it. I was like, are they going to go with this? But they did, and it was great. And so we got into the habit where after every senior leadership team meeting, we'd give it a ranking. I think we actually used 1 to 10. You use 1 to 10, 1 to 5, whatever you like. And then I always ask, what worked well for you about this meeting, and what would make it better next time? And then you get really good ideas. And in a matter of like probably 2 months, our meetings became incredibly, way more efficient and more enjoyable for people. And we started just hearing other people give feedback. Like, oh, I went on too long. So-and-so didn't like that. Maybe I'll like monitor mouth time next time. It is really helpful. And so, it's not immediate, but it's something that, over time, I think creates a big difference. So those are my sort of 3 tips for making meetings more effective if you can only do 3 things.